Thanks, David, and good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Just before I get on to the presentation proper, ACRS does acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Aboriginal people in Australia, of course, and the Maori in New Zealand, as well as all the Pacifica nations. The reason that we do that is because, particularly here in Australia, Aboriginal people are up to 3 times more likely to be involved in a road crash and be injured or killed than other Australians. So it is very important from a road safety point of view that we do remember that as we go about our work. I'm going to talk a little bit about the ACRS this morning, Australasian College of Road Safety, give you some understanding of road safety, some of the thinking behind some of the things that you might hear talked about, outline some of the research that a couple of our chapter members have done, and just hopefully, if you take it in, it might help you become better driver trainers and better instructors as you go about things. Yeah, next slide. As Dave said, was in the police for quite a long time. Funny that John Laws is passing on the weekend. Over my career, I did a lot of media, both for the police and for ACRS. And when I was based down in Albury, I got invited into a community radio station one morning, and it was about 10 o'clock. So I got John Laws is on 2AY, the main station, and I'm here on this community radio station taking calls about truck driving and all that stuff. So one of the highlights of my radio career, my media career, was that for half an hour I went up against Lawsy. So, yeah. I don't know. He never invited me back, so too hard. Next slide. So the Australasian College of Road Safety is the peak membership association for road safety professionals. Our main aim is to save lives, and we believe that death and serious injury on our roads is unacceptable. Next slide. We do a number of activities. Obviously, the Road Safety Conference, which I'll talk about, that's the largest conference in the Southern Hemisphere. We do a number of federal and state parliamentary submissions. Actually, in the next 5 weeks, I'm giving evidence at 3 separate parliamentary inquiries. So, yeah, I'll be probably, they'll know how I take my coffee by the end of it. We do our best to cultivate road safety partnerships and advocate for road safety through members of parliament and various networking events. We have a number of supporters. Transport for New South Wales and the New South Wales Government are gold sponsors of ACRS. And I do highlight the New South Wales Driver Trainers Association, who are bronze members, and we're very grateful for their support. The chapter committee, each state has its own chapter committee that organises events throughout the year. And we're comprised of people. We've got a pretty good committee in New South Wales. We've got people from a range of walks of life, people that used to work for transport, people that still do. We've got John Crozier, a leading trauma surgeon, and obviously Dave joined us, which is very good to give us that other perspective. So we've got a pretty good committee, and we're all volunteers as when we go about our work. So next one. And ACRS has also set up a range of networks which specialise in specific areas. There's a couple that have been set up. Heavy vehicle safety has just been established in rural road safety, so they organise workshops and activities as well. So it's a good little overlap there. So if people that are interested in niche areas of road safety, then ACRS has something for you. That's a list of our parliamentary submissions. We've done 20 of them over the last 4 or 5 years. There's one that I've just sent off to our CEO to go over. There's an inquiry into the structure of transport. At the moment, there's a pretty major restructure going on, which is involving some of our friends that we have good relationships with people at Transport and Centre for Road Safety, and we're certainly keen to make sure that there's no changes adverse to them, and that they continue to do their work as I'm sure you'd all agree. Earlier this year, we had a couple of regional road safety forums, and Chris was kind enough to come out to help us organise the one at Wagga, and it allowed us to directly engage with some people out there, and it also, not just the forums themselves, but we had quite a lot of media activity in regional TV, regional radio, regional press. So it was just it's always worth talking about road safety. Often it's when there's a tragedy on the roads that all of a sudden road safety will be the flavour of the day, or you might get a couple of days out of it. But we really need to talk about road safety all the time because it's a very sad state of affairs, which I'll get to. One of the other things that we organised last year was an event for our PhD research people, and there are people doing research in various, there's even one of them here doing some research, Greg Casey there, who presented at this forum. Dr. Prasanna Prabhakaran was the immediate past chair of ACRS. He was 38 years of old. He died of an illness, and there's a man that had the world at his feet. He had great potential in road safety, and his passing was a great loss to us at ACRS. But to honour him, we organised an event which we invited some PhD students to come along and give some presentations about their work. So it was a really good night and a good way to honour Prasanna. His family were there, and they even had family members travel from Auckland and from Perth to NSW for that event. So it was a wonderful night. And thanks to some of the stuff that we did with Chris and the regional road safety forums, I have great pleasure to talk about the formation recently of the New South Wales Parliamentary Friends of Road Safety Group. After those forums and during those forums, I got in the ear of Phil Donato, the MP for Orange, and Joe McGurr, the MP for Wagga, and started trying to beat the drum that there's parliamentary friendship groups for a range of organisations, but there wasn't one for road safety. And thanks to Phil and Joe, and also Sally Quinnell, who is my local member at Camden. Last month they formally stood up the Parliamentary Friends Group, and there'll be an event, we'll be organising an event in the new year, and that's a great thing. I'm very happy that we organised that. The big cherry on the cake for the next 12 months will be the Australasian Road Safety Conference in Sydney. If you go to the next slide, we'll play the promo video. And it'll give me a break from talking for 2 minutes. Is that like my wife?
The New South Wales chapter, Australasian College of Road Safety, is pleased to welcome you to Sydney for the 2026 Australasian Road Safety Conference. I'm Michael Timms, the Chair of the New South Wales chapter and the host committee. Road safety affects all of our lives, no matter if you're an experienced presenter or a newcomer. Join us as we move from evidence to action, shaping a brighter future. What is the evidence telling us, and how are we transforming it into action? What challenges threaten road safety, and what must we do differently?
Hi, I'm Jenny Aitchison. I'm the Minister for Roads and Regional Transport in New South Wales. I'm really excited that New South Wales will have the opportunity to host the Australasian Road Safety Conference in 2026. And I wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone who is attending the 2025 conference in Perth. We're going to have a lot of things to talk about. We know that road safety is really important as we all work on our goal towards zero trauma on our road networks. We really want to hear your ideas, get together and work as one on this really wicked problem.
This is a once-in-a-decade opportunity to come to Sydney for the World Championship of Road Safety. So put the dates in your calendar and look for updates. The Australasian Road Safety Conference is where the best present, and there's only one place to be in October 2026. See you in Sydney.
Yeah, so we had 600 people at Hobart last year and about 640 in Perth. So we really think we can get a good roll up, probably 800, even 1,000 if we can. Just interesting, I know the Peterson brothers, as I'll refer to them from this morning, they talked a little bit about some of their statistics. Last year we were approached by a media outlet to talk about a report which was doing the rounds. They'd done some research and talked, and they were exploring this idea of pass rates. I think they were trying to get some sensational comment from us that there might be some sort of massive issue going on with Service New South Wales and the testing process, but I mean, that's not the way I operate. I'll have a crack at politicians, but I'm not going to have a crack at people that are out there doing their jobs. It's not the way we work. But it was interesting. I went back through this year and have the first 9 lots of data for pass rates. There's a government website where you can get all this information, an open data source. It's really good. Just talked about how many the pass rates for all tests, the pass rates for age tests, and also the heavy tests there, which is pretty interesting. You guys will have this presentation. You can go through all that at your leisure. Just hit the next one. And also there was one about the motor registries. Oh, sorry, that's how old I am. I still call them motor registries. Which ones had the most tests? Blacktown, Canterbury and Cumberland were the top 3 for numbers of tests that they held. And Cumberland also had the lowest pass rate, just under 60%, which was interesting. So I suppose it tells you if you want to get your driver's licence, just go out to Denilquin. So they've got a pretty good pass rate out there. So as long as you don't hit a kangaroo or an emu out there on your way. One of the other bits of data out there, there's also a data on licence sanctions. So this looks at the holders of licences, and it tells you how many of them are sanctioned, so either cancelled or disqualified, suspended at the moment. So it's kind of low at the moment. So it was up as high as 160-odd thousand people were unauthorised drivers a couple of years ago, and now that's down to about 145. Very interesting. So either it shows that something's happening there in the enforcement space, which I'll talk about in a moment. New South Wales, there is a 2026 Road Safety Action Plan. It talks about road trauma. At the moment, 3/4 of our road deaths occur outside of the Sydney metropolitan area, and the action plan does call for targets. The goal is to halve road fatalities by 50% by the end of the decade and to reduce serious injuries by 30% by the end of the decade. They're ambitious targets, but adds a bit of tension to the system. And the next slide, we might talk about what we're actually doing, and there we go, we're missing the targets and missing them by quite a bit. As a matter of fact, you can say that the federal plan and the various state plans have probably already failed. We're more than 100 road deaths above where we need to be to meet the 2030 target. And hospitalisations are even worse. Last year, which is the most current full year's data, injury data is a lag period because there's a lot of work that has to be done to identify and quantify that. Fatalities is always easier, and having been in charge of the traffic intelligence unit for the police for many years, I can tell you that it's very hard sometimes to get all that data on hospitalisation, so there is a lag. But we're now on our way to 12,000 hospitalisations a year. And when you think about, you read all this stuff in the paper and you hear about ambulance ramping, what do you think a major driver of ambulance ramping is? Well, it's road crashes. You know, each day, like today's a typical day, there'll be something like 35 people hospitalised in the state from a road crash. So John Crozier tells the story. He's the leading trauma surgeon, one of our chapter colleagues. It's like the opening of MASH. Like the helicopter comes in, brings the patient in, lands on the roof, and then there's a whole team of specialists run up to the helicopter, get the patient, assess the patient, send them for urgent scans, triage them, prioritise them. At the same time that's all happening, people might be in hospital for elective surgery that day. But because a critically injured person has come into a hospital in a major road trauma centre, elective surgeries get cancelled. That adds to the waiting list and that adds to the demand on the hospital network. How better would it be? What better way to reduce the demand on the hospital network than to reduce the number of people that are injured on our roads? And it's the iceberg. You've ever heard the story about the tip of the iceberg, where you've got this little tip of the iceberg above the surface? That's the fatalities, and under the surface you've got this huge bit, the rest of the iceberg, that's your injuries. Injury crashes cost us more than deaths because of the lifetime care and the things that need to go on to look after people who are seriously injured in road crashes. There's a new plan currently being developed. There'll be some public engagement throughout the state from Transport for New South Wales. So if you get an opportunity to register and go along for one of those sessions, I highly recommend that you do so. So road safety is part of a broader system. We talk about there's a complex interaction of many components and many situations, and we talk about road user errors and crashes, many of whom are created by simple mistakes that people make, but it's more to do with the interaction of those various components. And the design and operation of that system must respond to the limitations of people. As Inspector Harry Callaghan used to talk about, a man's got to know his limitations, well, so too does the road user. Understanding the cause of crashes and injuries requires an understanding of how the whole road transport system actually interacts. So you might have seen that's we talk about the holes of the Swiss cheese, Chris Reason's theory of the holes of the Swiss cheese lining up and just have a catastrophic failure. Whereas all those layers there should offer some sort of protection, but when things go wrong, a number of things fail and we result in a crash. We talk about the safe system, we talk about safe people, safe vehicles, safe roads, safe speeds, and there's also the post-crash response. So we'll look at how those different pillars line up, having properly licensed people, making sure that people are wearing helmets and are wearing seatbelts, that people aren't affected by drugs. The safe vehicles, we highly recommend that people drive the safest vehicle that they can afford, and we certainly commend both ANCAP and the new used car safety ratings. If anyone hasn't heard of the used car safety ratings, it is an initiative by the transport agencies, including Transport. It's probably the more relevant document now, particularly for your customers. And we want to make sure that people again, they talk about how they'll do a whip around your cars to make sure that they're fit before a test, and that's making sure that the vehicles are the safest possible. There's a lot of stuff in the papers now about default speed limits, and that's because those roads aren't the safest roads. They're not your 4 and your 5-star roads. It's your 1 and your 2-star roads, which is why they're talking about trying to reduce default speed limits. And of course, in regional areas, we have risks from wildlife and a range of things. Safe speeds, of course, the number one factor for determining whether a crash occurs and what the severity outcome is. It's all to do about kinetic energy and the human body being subjected to forces that it can't withstand. And of course, post-crash response, and Dave will tell you over the years, when I first went out to Cowra in the 1990s, and it was really before mobile phones had widespread use. And if there was a crash on a highway out in a regional area, you had to flag down a passing motorist or walk to a farmhouse, had to send somebody into town to raise the alarm, then they had to get onto the ambulance and you try to tell them where they were, and most people don't have a clue where they are, so 10 k's out could be 50 k's out. And over the time, with mobile phones, really improved that response time, because a lot of times you'd have mobile phone reception either where you are or just go up to the nearest hill. That golden hour, that really improved the response time for crashes, and it's helped get people to hospital care and saved a lot of lives. But in regional areas, there's no rehab. You've still got people got to go to major centres for their rehab and their ongoing treatment, their care. And then you have other factors such as costs associated with loss of licence, investigations, incarceration. So that one crash could have lifelong impacts on people that are involved, and not just the person but also their families. People lose their houses, they lose their jobs, they lose their marriages just because they're injured in road crashes. That's the system that we're talking about. So we ask people we often hear a stat about, 90 or 95% of crashes are driver error. Well, yeah, that's true, but in this little example here, which I've just got some stills from a dash cam video, we got a motorcycle travelling along in a bus lane. They're allowed to do that. Motorcycle lobby said that we want to ride motorcycles in bus lanes, and they're allowed to do that. This is the Great Western Highway out near Wentworthville. And many years ago, that was all just houses along there, and now they've put all these apartment buildings. And we have this white vehicle, which has now decided that it wants to turn from the traffic lane and go into a driveway. It doesn't have to be there. It could be driving in the bus lane, because you are allowed to drive for up to, I think it's 100 metres. So there's a little bit of problem there, which we can start to see, but start to think about not just blaming the driver, but what's gone wrong in this whole thing. Just the next slide. So now we've got the motorcycle is now, you can't quite see it, but in the first slide he's doing 77, according to his dash cam unit there. And now, as he's about to be hit by the car, he's actually doing 78. So you might think there's enough time to react, but obviously it shows that the reaction time is a thing. You have to allow for reaction time, because he hasn't anticipated it. It's a bit hard to tell with the video, even when you play it, as to how early the person put their blinker on, if at all. And in the next slide, here he is. He's going over. Fortunately, he wasn't severely injured. Otherwise, I wouldn't use this example if he was injured. But again, looking at the things that have gone wrong, we've got a bus lane. We've got motorbikes that are actually allowed to use it. Whether that's still appropriate or not, that's anyone's guess. Is that bus lane appropriate? Did the people that approved the bus lane in the 1990s anticipate that there'd be so much traffic generating development take place? Is that still is it still suitable? You know, basically, this is foreseeable, this type of thing. You put enough development, somebody's going to want to go into a driveway. The good thing about it, though, is you look at the motorcyclist. Look what he's about to touch the road, and as motorcyclists do, when they're about to hit the road, they do that. And look at, he's got gloves, he's got all the gear on. So he's ticked that box, is that he knows, as a safe rider, I need to make sure that I'm protected. So that rider has done the right thing. And if it's just a hoodlum just riding around with thongs or a singlet or no gloves, they're going to be in a world of hurt. And fortunately, we have a situation where it wasn't too serious, but that's when we start to talk about the whole of the system. Stuart Newstead from Monash University was interviewed in Wheels magazine, the current issue. If you haven't seen it, I commend it to you, because it was a really good interview. So he made a number of statements, and I'm just curious, as driver trainers, whether you support his view that the common view of road safety is that it's the driver's fault, but we have not found a driver training system that stops people from making errors. It doesn't exist. What's the view on that? Do you agree with that? It's the only one you got. Ideally, a licensed system would ensure young drivers have experience in all situations. And then basically what he was saying, that we certify younger drivers and send them out on the road, and we sort of hope that nothing happens. That's a very interesting conundrum that Stuart talks about. One of our members of our chapter, Cass Gould, has done a lot of research on younger drivers, and one of the things that they've looked at is the driving ability, believing that you're a good driver, and we're all familiar with the concept of the optimism bias. Everyone's a good driver, except everyone else is a bad driver. That's not a bad thing to know. That to treat everyone else like a mug is not a bad thing, but having an overinflated belief in your own ability could be an issue, particularly when it comes to mobile phones. And one of the things that Cass looked at was, it's not just using the phone, it's different levels of risk depending on what you're actually doing. So if you're just looking at it, if you're initiating something, or if you're responding, the young people perceive different levels of risk depending on what they're actually doing. And slow-moving traffic, and we see that all the time. You see the knucklehead in front of you at the traffic lights that's doing the rabbit, and the green light's on, and then they're sitting there, and then you're tempted either to give them an assistive shove or to toot your horn. If I still had my F100 with a bull bar, the assistive shove would probably come into equation, but I can't talk about that because that's the road safety fraternity frown on F100s and bull bars. You'd be in the wrong too, yeah. And older drivers, very interesting that I know there was some discussion about ADAS systems. Helen Wynne from our chapter committee, she does a lot of work in regard to older drivers, and it could be the fact that, and she talks about the usage of ADAS system is among the lowest of other people, and it's something that we need to think about, and you as people who might be involved in testing and instructing the older drivers. Just the first thing they learn about ADAS could be from you guys. So just have to bear that in mind, that we know that it can be helpful, but information retention, sometimes if they go through in-class and on-road components, it might be good to talk about something, and then if you get a chance to actually demonstrate something, lane keep assist, those type of things, which sadly a lot of people turn off lane keeping assist. And the biggest cause of fatal and serious injury road crashes in our regional roads is run off road or head on. It's the simple task of not being able to stay in your lane, and that's what leads to a lot of road trauma. The next one, yeah, so older drivers, they have a preference for several features when they're buying cars. Obviously they look at price, fuel efficiency, and but those type of things still have precedence. So policies aimed at pricing and packaging of the various technologies certainly could be beneficial, and the benefits of ADAS really needs to be communicated to older drivers. Heavy vehicles, I know Greg Casey's going to talk a lot about heavy vehicles tomorrow, but I just wanted to talk about bridge strikes and route planning. If you're doing work with heavy vehicle people, whether they be drivers or companies, only last Friday, if you probably remember, there was a fatality up in Lithgow where a cherry picker or elevated work platform has struck a bridge up in Lithgow, and it's brought the whole thing down on top of the cabin, and it's killed the passenger in the truck. It's just so sad when those things occur. And again, the temptation is to blame the driver, and there'll be a whole police investigation goes in, and when that poor driver gets out of hospital himself, obviously he'll be in a world of hurt. But each one of those trucks, like the one pictured here, and this is from an illustration from Queensland, each one of those trucks has left a yard or left a depot or even left a rest area somewhere. So there was multiple opportunities there where somebody could have said, which way are you actually going? Oh, I'm going on such and such. Oh, mate, there's a low bridge, you can't go that way, you've got to go this way. There's multiple opportunities that we need to intervene and not rely on the driver all the time. Heavy vehicles and level crossings. I represented the police on the Level Crossing Strategy Council for about 12 years. And there was a pretty serious incident in Kerrang, Victoria, which is not far from the New South Wales border. 11 people were killed. A semi-trailer has disobeyed flashing lights and ploughed into a train. He got found not guilty, but anyway, go figure. There was a couple of years worth of data I studied, and the involvement of heavy vehicle in level crossing crashes is tremendous. When you add light trucks and youths, it's almost, it's 70-odd% of level crossing incidents involve a vehicle which is being driven for work. And school buses also pose a particular risk. So if you're doing work with the heavy vehicle industry, if you get a chance to highlight the risks of level crossings, I really recommend that you do so. So we talk about a systems approach. Like there was a parliamentary submission in 2013 about challenges posed to rest areas, and they're building a new rest area not far from here. There's already been about 3 announcements by ministers, so there will probably be another 10 announcements between now and when it's actually open. Why aren't they putting in technology that they have at the harbour tunnels that tells the driver, if a driver's coming into that rest area, why don't they tell the truck driver, mate, your truck is 4.7 or 4.8, so that the truck driver then can reassess what route they're going to take so that they don't get stuck in these things. We wait until a truck's stuck before we do anything. Electronic work diaries, they can easily incorporate journey management systems. And as these systems occur, there really will be pressure on the heavy vehicle industry to do away with the paper logbooks once and for all and start having an incorporated system with connected vehicle technology, journey management, just to make those heavy vehicle journeys much safer and not beat the poor old truck driver over the head all the time. They've got enough to worry about. Let them focus on the task of driving. It's the most complex task that they have to do. ACRS events, we have a number of events scheduled. We're having a bit of a social for our members towards the end of the month. We have our PhD Invitational again, and we also have the Road Safety Conference next year. So the chapter annual general meeting. We delayed that towards till after our conference because I don't want to be going through elections and when I'm trying to organise a conference. Just a bit of a straw poll, just among you people here. What's the number one road safety issue that your clients talk about? Roads? Potholes? Restricted speed limits. And as from your point of view, maybe you share those views, maybe you have a different views. What do you believe is the... Yep. Training? Yep. Anything else? Attitudes. What, the general public or the general public? Not giving learners a fair go. So if resources and approvals were not an issue, what would you most like to see happen in road safety? Yeah, well, that's true. Peter? Uniform road rules. Yeah, I think that's a good thing. Like the Australian road rules, 1st of December 1999, Australasian road rules came into effect. It was supposed to bring out uniformity, but we also have within that some jurisdictional legislation. The Victorians didn't want to lose their hook turns. I used to go to Melbourne a fair bit I used to go to see my interstate colleagues for conferences, and if I had to drive in Melbourne, I'd make 3 left turns, so I didn't have to make a hook turn. So that's what I thought of those hook turns. There's a barcode thing there about becoming a member, but we've got a little bit of time, still got 10 minutes or so, so I've got a couple of just additional slides that I'll just throw in just for you to look at. And it just talks about the challenge of... sorry? Yeah. If you can bring that up. Yeah, well, that's right. So, but we'll talk about that. I just wanted to talk because we hear a lot about road rules and default speed limits. You can bring it back up in a minute anyway. So this is a stretch of road between Lockhart and Urana down in the Riverina area. So I was going out there for, can't even remember what I was going out there. We might have just been going away on a road trip. So you've got a bit there. You've got, obviously it's been raining at that stage, and there's some waters which are gathering by the side of the road. And what a water by the side of the road, what does that bring out? Thank you. The lingering presence of floodwaters, and there's unprotected trees there. So it's a bit of an ode to infrangibility. So if you do run off the road, there's a likelihood that you'll have you'll hit a tree or some sort of object. Pretty poor centre line marking, no edge lines, no audio tactile line markings. Guideposts are inconsistent. A little bit further down the road it improves a little bit because we start to see some advanced warning signs. We've got this good one here. You can see there's a school bus advanced warning sign that there's a school bus located. Somebody's putting a school bus on the unsighted on part of a sweeping left-hand bend, so that's interesting. But you also see unbroken lane lines there, so you can't see what's coming around the corner, but they actually allow you to overtake there, which is kind of interesting. But at least they have centre line marking, and they now have some edge lines present. And there's some nice guideposts there with the reflectors, so it's improved a little bit, but it's still not great. Over the next slide, there's a couple more, same stretch of road. Again, it's deteriorated again. You cross into a different council area, and things change. Here we have an absence of centre lines. I think they might have, in fairness to them, there was probably some resurfacing done along there. They hadn't come back and repainted it. At least there's some good clear zones there, so you're not likely to hit a tree or any other object. But it does illustrate we have heavy vehicles on the road, and we didn't show it, but there's some dead wildlife along that route, which, as I said, presents another hazard. And a little bit further down, we have, this is probably the road in its best condition. Guideposts, centre line marking, overtaking, good visibility. There are occasional, there's some telegraph poles there that aren't protected, so there's still a bit of an object there. So that's probably 2.5 star road if you're using the new parlance. But that's just one section of road, and it's all signposted 100. that type of road, that won't change. The stuff that you're hearing about them changing speed limits, that type of road's unaffected because it's already gone through the process of having the speed zone determinations. But all that stuff that you hear about with the default speed limits, that's looking at roads which you go out of town and gravel roads, for argument's sake. Tasmania has a blanket 80k speed limit on gravel roads. We don't have any such thing in New South Wales. And it's just asking that can we switch the onus? We have an onus there, we have a 100k road, all those different conditions, it's inconsistent. Can we just switch the onus from having it high and risk assessing it to lower? Can we, the paper is just saying, how about we just start it lower, and as you improve the road and do some improvements, then you can increase that speed limit. If you've got audio tactile line markings, if you've got clear zones, if you've got good railing, good sight visibility, then you can look at increasing speed limits. It's the right speed for the right road. They increased the speed limit in the tunnel, in the new M8 tunnel some time ago, to 90 because the road authorities went and did the assessment and they thought that 90 was better than 80. You could do 90 with safety, and I don't really think there's been a problem since then. It's a matter of having the right speed for the right road, and if we hold out that yes, you can increase some speed limits, but others might have to come down, and it's just a matter of applying a bit of methodology and a bit of science to it. And I think that's about all we've got. We've got a couple of time if anyone's got any questions. I'll be here for most of lunch. Unfortunately, I do have to leave, but that's our presentation. Thanks very much for having me. Up the back.
Just one quick question was, we all agree that human beings will still make mistakes. What's the college see as, say, one main priority to reducing the number of mistakes that those human beings are going to be making?
Well, it's all those things that we talk about in that safe system, making sure that you're in the safest vehicle that you can afford. The CTP inquiry, that's the latest one, and I'll probably be giving evidence that. Our thing about that is that the CTP penalises novice drivers. The CTP should be about preventing crashes, and we have a premium regime. There's the Kia K4, the new Kia, really nice car, but some of the models have a 4-star rating and some of them have a 5-star rating. They offer the same protection in a crash. The ANCAP testing says that in a crash, once they crash, the protection is the same. However, the 5-star vehicle has a number of features that can actually prevent the crash. So why can't we provide some encouragement for people to actually buy that 5-star car that will prevent a crash? We have a system which seems to be more concerned with, we're happy to replace a limb, but we don't want to replace an airbag module, and it's not a good system. So we want to be able to financially make it worthwhile for people to buy the safest vehicle. Have a look at road design and seeing what things can be done. Obviously the heavy vehicle space, heavy vehicle challenges there, and you people would know, educating motorists properly about it, but it's also the heavy vehicle industry itself. The road freight task, I remember going to a forum in about 2002 and they said between now and 2020 the road freight task will double. So okay, 2020 that's come and gone, and now it's going to double again. So that managing that road freight task is going to be a huge challenge for us as we move ahead. There's no single answer. If we knew the answer, it probably would have already been done. How we manage drugs, how we manage alcohol, continuing to be problems. Obviously motorcycles are overrepresented, and there's been some initiatives about motorcycling, but it's everything. It's everything. It's so hard to come up with one thing. Just mitigation of speed, managing speed is probably the easy one, but politically it's unpalatable, and we have to. You'll see some reports about how they're trying to link saving fuel and reducing emissions to some of the things that are being done. That's because it's so hard to win arguments based on safety. You have to throw in environmental arguments. And people will say, oh, why can't I do 130 down the Hume? Well, it's not going to happen. The government signed up to the climate change. They're not going to increase something that's going to increase emissions. And I'm a bit of a national security person too. Like we've got all our we import most of our oil now, and it's coming through contested waterways. And if we well, let me tell you, if there's a major conflict in our region, they'll drop all speed limits overnight. It'll drop. That's why, remember 55 in the US, during the oil embargo, the oil crisis in the 70s, that's how they got 55-mile-an-hour speed limits, because just to conserve fuel. So they're the sort of things to think about. We're pretty scarce with our fuel. We rely on it all coming from imported. And having been on duty, I was the police liaison officer when the Coots tanker rolled up in 2013, 2012, 2013. And the work that went into targeting that fleet and the deficiencies of that fleet, it almost brought fuel supplies to a halt, because we just didn't have that much. If you ground that company that's delivering the oil, it just almost grounded road transport in this country. But I digress, as unaccustomed to public speaking as I am. So thank you very much.